If you enjoy movies, comic books, and pop culture, be sure to like and subscribe.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the REC Podcast, brought to you by REC Comics and Collectibles. I'm your host, Roman Chavez, and with me, as always, Eric's gone again, guys. This guy, he's busy. He's busy. We miss you. We can't wait to see you back in the studio. He's fine. He's just having some life stuff. Stupid cars, man. Stupid cars. But on the ones and twos, we do have the big tuna. Oh,
that's me.
Yeah, we gotta get you like a net and like a hat, even though you're like the fish.
Yeah,
but like
I wanna look like the mascot of like a frozen like a fish stick.
There you go.
But
Yeah,
nice, like the guy with like the. I don't know the company, but like the yellow.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, he's got like the something. I know what you did last summer. Killer wears, but yellow, so he's safe jogging at night.
Yeah,
you know?
That's like I know what you. It's like I know what you did last spring.
Kids, you can follow us on Instagram at the REC Podcast. You can follow myself at Roman REC Podcast. You can follow the shop at REC Comics, or you can come visit us at 7679 North Union Boulevard in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And you can find the tuna swimming up, I guess not upstream because that's a salmon thing. Dude, I don't know my fish. I shouldn't have called you this, but I'm stuck. It's been 12 years.
And I don't know much about fish either. So like I can't disagree. Like maybe tuna do that too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm going to have to learn up some tuna facts. Speaking of facts, we have some a hard retweet, a hard repost from the brainchild that is James Gunn going into the DC Universe. It was announced that Superman and Lois have been cast for Superman Legacy, right? I almost want to say Superman Reborn. I don't know why. But Superman Legacy, that is going to be the, this new installment for this DC extended universe. But I think they're just calling it DCU now.
DCU.
Yeah, the DCU. The Superman is an actor, David Corenswet is how it looks like you say his last name. I feel good about it. I may be wrong. Maybe Corenswet or something. I don't know.
He's American, so it shouldn't be too weird.
Okay, all right. Maybe trying to hide it a little, yeah. Where's his family from, okay?
Yeah, just don't tell me they're from Argentina.
And he would be playing Clark Kent, Superman, Kal-El. And he looks pretty young. I'm not familiar with him as an actor, which we had kind of talked about that in the past, that like I kind of wanted him to go no name again, because Henry Cavill was no name. He became a name. I had only seen Henry Cavill in the Count of Monte Cristo. He played the son. And I didn't really know him, but man, he got jacked. I need this guy to get a little jacked for me, because the pictures we're seeing, quite slender. Are you familiar with any of his work? Have you seen him in anything?
No, like I did a quick, IMDb search, and like it was some of the stuff like I hadn't heard of, and then the projects I had heard of, I couldn't have told you that it was him. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell you who he had played. I mean, so I do think it's kind of a no name. Reminds me a little bit of Brendan Routh. Where it's like I kind of was like I recognize him. Yeah. But like again, not a big body of work that was that was very well known.
Yeah, and you kind of need that. This is going to these characters can be kingmakers and queenmakers, but they you see some people get kind of tired of that, and they want to renounce their kingdom. But Robert Downey Jr., I'm talking to you. Come back. And then the Lois Lane character will be portrayed by Rachel Brosnahan. Again, somebody else that I'm not overly familiar with, whereas, we were very familiar with Amy Adams. She had already been a multiple Oscar nominee. We had seen her in Superman projects in Smallville, and she was, she already had the chops. So this is another person that's out there doing stuff I haven't seen. And I don't want to go too deep into their resume unless I catch a title that maybe it's something I've seen and we didn't even know they were in there, But it's great. James Gunn retweeted this and reposted this on his Instagram, and in the comments below, somebody asked him if they will be casting a Jimmy Olsen, to which he replied, yes. There was no Jimmy in the Man of Steel universe. There was like Janie or Jenny.
Yeah, and there was a little speculation that the guy that was traveling with Lois at the beginning of Batman vs Superman, she's in the desert. And there's the shootout that happens. The guy's got like the tracker. There was some speculations like, oh, like it's gonna be like like that's gonna be the Jimmy Olsen kind of thing. But yeah, I believe it was the extended unrated cut or the R cut.
Oh, okay.
Whatever that reference a Jenna Olsen. Yeah, and it's interesting because I mean these characters have been around for a very long time. Like not only in print. But going back to like the classic like black and white like George Reeves Superman, like you're getting kind of those big three, the Daily Planet three, of like Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane and Clark Kent. It's interesting because some people, I think they hear some of the characters, they kind of get like a picture in their mind of what the character may look like. Like when I hear Jimmy Olsen, I picture the kid that played Jimmy in The Adventures of Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman. Like I just picture like, I don't know why he'd wear a sweater vest, like a sweater vest, and like in the camera. That's what I picture the character. And just like how I picture Alfred, like like wearing a tux. Like I don't know why a butler would do that. It's actually wildly impractical. To buttle that way.
It's a sign of if I show up like this to buttle, nobody's going to give me any respect. You respect Alfred. You respect a butler enough, okay?
Yeah, that's true. I get it. But yeah, no. So it'll be interesting to see if the Jimmy is maybe not necessarily something that looks recognizable from some of the other iterations. Some of them wildly different. Again, ultimately, it all comes down to someone's ability to convey the emotion through the story. I feel like we're gonna get a Lois Lane that's a lot more confident, and we're gonna get a Clark that's a lot more again playing a lot on that Christopher Reeves Superman, where it's like he was kind of catching up to her. So. There's a lot. There's a lot that they can do with it. Rebooting the entire universe and giving us a from scratch story. I wouldn't be surprised if the Daily Planet's not a newspaper. Like it's one of those things where every few years we get further and further away from newspapers being something that's culturally relevant. God, I hope it's not something like a BuzzFeed. Like I don't want Lois Lane writing like. Take this quiz to find out what sort of cat you are.
You make a good point there. Just kind of how they very not subtly, but I mean they pulled it off, making the Daily Bugle kind of an Alex Jones InfoWars type thing for the time. Like it totally works. It totally makes sense. Having the Daily Planet being something online to some extent would be great. Maybe they'll do it in entertainment instead, Maybe they're following superhero stuff, who knows. But to your point earlier, getting this kind of trifecta from the Daily Planet, it's been a long time since we've had it, because I don't even think there was a Jimmy Olsen in the Ralph movie. Was there one in the Reeves movies?
Part of me... I mean, there was in the Reeves movies, yes.
Okay. He does not stand out to me at all.
Yeah, but part of me feels like Superman Returns had a Jimmy Olsen, but there was a lot that was forgettable in that movie. If I don't remember that Jimmy was Jimmy there.
Yeah. If a Jimmy falls in the woods,
And
again, you're talking about that trifecta. You got to have these people in there, and they have to matter too. Like it has to be a big deal that Superman has chosen Jimmy Olsen to give him this sonic device that calls for him. I mean, that's a big deal. There are tons of other people, the mayor, the president, tons of other people who could use that, but it's Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen that is, the one who gets it. I mean, Lois doesn't even have one. He loves the woman. She doesn't have any way to communicate with him, before she finds out who he is. Granted, he knows her heartbeat, blah, 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 blah. All right?
Speaking of the whole heartbeat thing, I think there's a lot of people, and I would include myself in this camp, that I'm not a huge fan of Superman, and it's not so much necessarily what they've done with the character, so much as the fact that he's just wildly overpowered compared to his peers. It's something where it's like, when we used to have the movie theater conversation of who would win in a fight, it's like, I love Batman, but like if Superman wanted, if that was his one mission, I don't see how Batman could stop him. There'd have to be some extraneous, something out of the sphere of influence that would have to influence. Something would have to
red sunlight.
Yeah,
this and that.
a kryptonite meteor passing the Earth. So the reason I bring that up is because you're talking about the sonic device, and he knows her heartbeat and these things. Like, I want to see them pare down his powers. Not that he can't fly and can only jump. I'm not saying that necessarily, but like. I don't, especially like this early on iteration, where it seems like James Gunn has like hinted this first phase of gods and monsters in the DCU, that we would see kind of this duality of his identity. Like Smallville did a really good job as the story being episodic. How they worked in the way he developed his heat vision and the way the hearing with like going blind. Really clever stuff. But like, I don't want to see this Superman be able to hear every whisper on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to see there being a pared down, maybe his X-ray vision, like they was talking about, like how he can look through anything except for lead. But like, the range of what he can look through. Like, I mean, there's some things I think they can work within the confines.
Yeah.
Because, it's hard to tell a story and make it compelling. And make us feel like there's a chance the hero might not save the day.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that when the hero is like overpowered.
Yeah. And I like the idea, like, and it should be as he grows older, he gets stronger. So we have this opportunity to see him with the powers not to the range yet. Him struggling to hide his powers from his peers. These things. When you have a Jimmy Olsen, when you have a Lois Lane, and definitely when you have Perry White, like that father figure who trusts you but is really hard on you, but trusts you to do the right thing and get the right story, those characters have to matter. Like, they can't just be like, oh, I've got to save you fodder. They should be doing things. There should be an active investigation by Perry's team on who the superheroes are. Because if we're going to get it's Superman Legacy, I assume they're going to tell it probably very similarly to how they told Man of Steel, because of the like kind of flashback stuff. Because if it's going to be a young Superman, like in his like 18, 19, he's not talking to Lois Lane. He doesn't meet her till he gets a job. So I'd be curious to see how young they're going to play it. And then if we're going to get a lot of things in like flashback form.
Yeah, it seems like the Legacy. It's interesting, calling it Legacy and it's the first movie.
Yeah.
But I think what's cool is maybe it's not necessarily Superman's legacy, but it's the legacy of the House of L. Where it's something there. And so there's, Smallville did this too, where it's like Jor-El had kind of this vision of what he wanted his son to be, and that clashed with Jonathan Kent, and clashed with what Clark wanted, and so maybe getting some of the vision of sort of what the expectation is, or what his expectation of himself is, will be interesting. I also think one thing that very well might make or break the movie is who the villain's going to be.
Yeah.
When you're doing an origin story, often the villain is tied into the origin. I mean, think about like every Marvel movie. The origin story of the character has also come alongside the villain.
Yeah.
Probably with the only exception of Thor, who was born that way. But again, that's don't gaga. But even still, the argument that that Thor ultimately didn't become the hero that he is without being banished to Earth and being unworthy for a time. That's still kind of tied into Loki, and stuff. So but Captain America and Red Skull, you get Obadiah Stane and Tony. I mean, so there is kind of this, even the Super Soldier Serum with Hulk, and Ross even. Are we gonna get a first iteration of Zod? Are we gonna get a Lex Luthor? Is this gonna be the kind of movie where they're writing about Lex Luthor, but they haven't cast Lex Luthor because Lex Luthor will be a legacy villain later down the road that they haven't.
Which I think they should do.
And so then it becomes a matter of is someone on the phone and okay, Mr. Luthor, and again, a lot of it I do think could come down to the villain because. What is it? What is the external factor that's going to cause this character to have to undergo this change?
Yeah.
And I think, probably with the exception of Peter Parker, I've always been interested in Superman's struggle with his identity.
Yeah, oh,
you know,
definitely.
Peter Parker, they've always made a staple. Like every Spider-Man movie deals with that issue of him. Like, is he a high schooler, or is he a normal life person, or he's juggling these sides of his life. The whole idea that Clark Kent is his costume. The whole Kill Bill.
Which is so stupid. That's wrong.
I know. Yeah. But I will say though, I will say that it's interesting because the Snyderverse did the exact opposite with it. In my opinion,
yeah.
They did a better job showing that like his birth name is Jor-El, but he's Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt. But again, how the villain plays into it, and what is the threat going to be, and is Lois going to be the damsel in distress? Is she always running towards the incident and getting saved frequently? Part of me even wonders, like, Man of Steel kind of flipped the script by giving us this idea that Lois Lane knows Clark Kent is Superman from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Once they're introduced and these things, but like by the end of Man of Steel, that he's already working at the Daily Planet, and she knows who he is. So I wonder, kind of, are they going to play out sort of the Margot Kidder, like she doesn't know, and how long that plays out for? There's a lot that could go. Also, how much do they want to tell us about Krypton? How much do they want to tell us about all the other things they could go into? And is his cousin going to play a role? Are they going to reference her or not? There's a lot. And
if they don't show the explosion from Krypton, and we see the one defined ship and possibly another ship, like it's just like, set it up now. Like, we can get to it, and we don't have to get to it for a few years. Mm-hmm. We find her later, so it's totally fine. Here's my soft pitch. The first villain is Metallo. The Superman, maybe he's in Metropolis. Kind of the first few months he's there, trying to find the job, this and that. So maybe he's fresh out of journalism school, and it gives us a way for, like, not only us to see a cool Superman villain that really hasn't been done live action outside of, there was one in The Adventures of Lois Clark, and then there was
Smallville.
And Smallville had a weird version.
Wasn't it Brian Austin Green? I think it was.
I think you're right, dude. Holy crap!
I'm gonna man in the chair.
Yes. And you have Metallo, who's for you don't know, he's was a guy, dies. They put his brain patterns in a robot, and his heart is a kryptonite, and that's what like fuels him. So obviously it makes Superman weak. You could have that be it. You can have it be a test from Lex Luthor, so he's just watching the whole thing, and we just kind of see him going over the footage at the end. Maybe they don't show him. It's a very claw type move where we just see his hands going through the photos, and we know that he was put together by LexCorp, so you have some loose pretense for that to happen. Really?
Brian Austin Green as John Corbin.
Wow. Yep. John Corbin. Good. Yeah. That's that could be cool, because we don't have any good Superman villains outside of Zod in live action. Like ones that people can name.
Yeah.
And there are good ones. There are the Parasite. There is Metallo. There is. I'm drawing a blank right now, but we can get to, people like Calabac and this and that down the road. But we do need to have Superman fight something, and no more swirling garbage. If we could have no more swirling garbage, I'd be happy.
Dude, here's my soft pitch. There was some rumor and speculation that the Authority were going to be introduced in Superman Legacy. I would like to see the Authority be the villain, but not the typical villain.
Yeah, they're doing it for the government.
Exactly. Yeah. So the question becomes, like, does Superman say, if his morality, whether it's human, whether it's Kryptonian, if his morality says, like, I see they're doing this, I don't care if they're sanctioned by a government, this is wrong. Yeah. That makes for a compelling conflict. And there are, my cursory knowledge, there are some Authority characters that could go toe to toe or collectively, the fact that there's a variety to the team, the fact that there's this kind of anti-hero aspect, I think it'd be interesting, and it could really help springboard then giving us almost like a reverse Guardians, where you give us a Guardians appearance and a team up movie, if you will, and then you give us their solo offshoot, so we better understand, kind of like what they're doing with like Thunderbolts. Yeah. Where it's like we've seen all these characters separately, but like now we're gonna see them together. Like maybe give us the origins of the authority or the fact that they're operating at some point,
Yeah.
and now Superman's like deciding whether or not to intervene and step in, and what does that look like, and if it ends with him like dropping one of them unconscious on the lawn of the White House, I mean, like they could do some really cool stuff.
This is a good opportunity for DC because Marvel and Disney, they've been having some woes. It was recently announced that over the last 8 box office releases for Disney, they are at a net loss of nearly $1 billion, in the neighborhood of $900 million. There's a lot of factors that can add to this. Obviously, we had the pandemic. We've had the insertion of some political stuff into some of these movies that has deterred some people away. Gas has gone up, so maybe you're not going to watch a movie as often as you were. But this is not... And again, them being a victim of their own success, I mean, they're still making money that other movies wish they could. They're investing too much in something, and it's not coming out on the back end.
Yeah, so we'll get a little bit specific here. So the movies in question essentially are the past year. So what they're referring to are, and I'm going to give you the list, and then I'm going to kind of give you the explanation of how some of these numbers were reached. Again, some of these numbers are estimations. Disney's not quick to come out and say specifically, like, they don't have a fiduciary responsibility to like tell me exactly. So here's the list of movies: Lightyear, Thor: Love and Thunder, Strange World, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Little Mermaid, and most recently just released. Very recently is Elemental. So here's how this works. So there was a website that aggregated data that was released. Again, some of this was rounded numbers, and some of this may not include this and that. So there is some estimation that is at play here. But they essentially took the movies, looked at the cost, came up with a total amount of production costs for these movies at about $2.75 billion. Which again, now here's the thing: if Guardians 3, let's say, had done Endgame money, that's half that chunk right there.
Yeah.
So again, a few of these movies, like Guardians 3, are carrying the weight of the, and it's a lot of that profitability, right?
Yeah.
So here's what they said:
an Endgame hangover.
Yes, yes. It said that referring to the Walt Disney Company, kind of how some of these trends, about 55% of the box office is going to be coming from domestic, 43 international, about 25 from the Chinese box office. And then looking at that, kind of the returns that have come in, that comes to about a $1.86 billion total, which then subtracted from that estimated cost gives us about an $890, maybe rounded to $900 million loss. So to put simply, again, like essentially what we're saying is, these people looked into it and they said, here's our estimation. Disney over the past year, all their releases cost this much. All of those movies so far have made this much. Are they in the red or are they in the black? And they're in the red for almost $1 billion. Now, when I look at that list, again, like you were saying, there could be... I think most things in life are a combination of factors. Trying to simplify things all down to one specific issue often is wrong, and usually can be fairly refuted. I think there's a few things at play. When I look at this list here, and I'm going to pull out a few movies, and I'm going to ping pong them over.
Ping them to me, sir.
So here's the movies I'm going to ping pong to you. Okay, I'm grouping them for a reason: Lightyear, Strange World, and Elemental. Those 3 movies. When those 3 movies, again, Lightyear, Strange World, Elemental, what is I want Roman's perception. What is your perception of those 3 movies?
First of all, what is Strange World?
Okay, so right there, we have a Disney release that got a theatrical release. That was not a shove to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
That was a theatrical release movie that you clearly didn't see.
I don't know what it is.
Did you watch Lightyear?
I didn't watch Lightyear. Because I'm more interested in the Toy Stories.
Yeah, it is interesting though, because the very opening of the movie, it like tells you this is the movie that was released and Andy bought the toy from the movie. That's supposed to be the tie-in.
Gotcha.
But again, it's one of those things where it's like, Yeah, the story and that sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Elemental, is that something you have any interest in?
Yeah, I do want to see it, and I want to see it because my kids want to see it. But there were only a few Disney or Pixar movies that I would go see theatrically before I had kids, but there were some, you know. Yeah. And I'm interested in it, but I just, where do you find the time?
Yeah, so those three that I pulled out, okay, the reason I pulled out those three are because they are digital animated features.
Kind of Disney's thing.
Yeah, and Lightyear, I was deciding whether or not to group in. I grouped it into the other two because while Buzz Lightyear was an existing character in the Disney universe, the Disney Pixar universe, the story that it tells is original. I mean, there's a few he ends up getting an escape pack on his back when he ejects and the wings come out. And so it's there are some where it's oh, okay,
cool.
But I mean in general all the story stuff's original.
Sure.
There is a Zurg, they do something interesting kind of with time travel a little bit with the planet that him and his team get kind of stuck on.
And that serial killer from Chucky puts his soul into the doll.
So if we say that Lightyear, with the exception of the fact that it was an existing character, I would say it's an original story with an existing character.
Sure.
Okay. Strange World is an original story with original characters, and Elemental is I'm going to air quote this, original story with original characters. And the reason I say that is because I took my son to watch Elemental, and I at one point was I don't know any of the characters' names. The day after, someone asked me, they were oh, what have you done this weekend? And I forgot that I had taken him to see it. The reason I say that is because you're going to go into Elemental, and what you're going to see is a world in which it's wow, all these things live together in kind of harmony, and they're each kind of different from each other, but they sort of live at peace, and there's a lot of puns involved. You know what that movie is? That's Zootopia.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I left Elemental, when I hit my head and remembered I saw it, I was wow, this was a worse version of Zootopia. Wow. That was my take. And I enjoyed Zootopia, but Elemental, I mean, the gimmick of oh, he's water and she's fire. I mean, just there's so much of it's forgettable. It's been done too many times. So I grouped those three together. Okay, so the next ones I'm going to group together are, and you'll get why I'm doing this: Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther, Ant-Man, and Guardians. Mm-hmm. Okay, would you agree with me that is kind of a bowl of mixed nuts?
Yeah. And 5 years ago, you say that lineup comes out in the calendar year, you're over the moon. You're over the moon that those movies would come out in a calendar year.
Yeah. I mean, before Thor came out, I think there was an extreme amount of hype that we're getting a Thor movie, we're getting a follow-up Black Panther. We all knew with the passing of Chadwick, R.I.P. King. We knew that it was going to be different, we were getting an Ant-Man movie, which then was that it was going to be part of this launch of this phase with a two-phase villain. Mm-hmm. Starting Phase 5, ending Phase 6 with the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. I mean, assuming he carries over into Secret Wars. And Guardians. Mm-hmm. The first two were hits out of the park. Yeah. And then as soon as Thor came out, there was a lot of disappointment. But people were still okay, and you get Black Panther, which, some fans were divided on, and then Ant-Man just felt like a dud.
It was a dud.
It did not have a lot of magic that some of the other Marvel movies had. It didn't have some of the magic that the other Ant-Man movies had.
Yeah, the other two deserve their place in the top, high on the list. But yeah, that third one was so forgettable, and same thing with Thor. That fourth one was just so forgettable.
Yeah, and that only leaves The Little Mermaid. And The Little Mermaid, Disney's kind of one-trick pony, is taking their animated successful films, giving us a live-action reboot, or whatever you want to call it, a respin, whatever is your term.
Retread?
Retread, yeah. Giving us one or two new original songs, a little bit more backstory of a character here and there and that sort of thing. And I don't know. I mean, had this come out when Beauty and the Beast came out, it may have been a bigger hit. But the Beauty and the Beast remake, people were this is fun. I remember watching, I was watching the movie in theaters as a little girl. Now I'm taking my girls to go see it, And we get Aladdin, we get we get Dumbo, we get The Lion King, we get I
forgot about Dumbo.
Dude, I could water hose you with all the stuff that has come out and is going to come out. And I don't know. I feel like The Little Mermaid was kind of suffering from both a little bit of fatigue.
Yeah.
Fans were kind of they kind of learned do I need to see this again?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people love The Little Mermaid. It's not. I don't think the reason it didn't do well was a lack of love for The Little Mermaid. I think it was people being do I need to see this?
Yeah.
It's
going to come out on Disney Plus in 3 months.
Yeah, I think that's another part of it too. I mean, you're you know what? I'm not sold on Strange World, but it's going to be on Disney Plus. Why am I going to go?
Yeah.
And you know what? Disney's not patting themselves on the back with streaming numbers on their platform.
Yeah.
So, again, yes, we can talk about Lightyear, prominently, featured in one scene, a same-sex kiss. That was, and Disney was being very vocal that the movie had that.
Yeah, which was weird.
Which again was, it's a company's way of believing that it's their attempt to appeal to an audience.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not, whether you agree with that being in a kid's film, whether or not, regardless, all businesses exist to make money. They thought that by doing this, by marketing this, they thought it was going to help them. I don't think that it hurt them very much. I think what really hurt them was people being I'd rather not watch a sci-fi Buzz Lightyear movie. You know what I would watch? A spaghetti western Woody.
Woody? Oh my gosh!
Dude,
yeah.
doesn't that sound incredibly awesome?
Interesting.
You get a character you would get a Clint Eastwood voice cameo. Absolutely. Give me a So Lightyear was kind of criticized for being woke. Strange World did have some of the LGBTQIA. There's a number in there somewhere.
Yeah.
A 2?
It's a squiggly. I think.
A 2? A tilde?
A tilde. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry for all you asterisks. I'm sorry I forgot that. And then Elemental, the most recent release, there was talk about there being a non-binary voice actor voicing a non-binary blob of water. Yes, we can talk. Some people are going to say, "Oh, they went woke, they got broke." But you know what, though? I think the problem was those products, those 3 products, Lightyear, Strange World, Elemental, are generally forgettable. You look at the other releases, and Black Panther did great business. It featured a same-sex couple in the movie.
Yeah.
Now, maybe Disney was not as loud that it was going to have it, but it still had it. More prevalently visible probably than any of the other movies.
Yeah.
And it still made money. Peter Quill's running around sleeping with everything in the universe. they're like homeboy, don't discriminate. So so I don't think that's that much of an issue.
Remember when he got with that smoking hot Ray Jack chick?
Yes. Ultimately, yes. I think Disney's model. If these numbers are holding true, they definitely have some struggles that they need to work through. So.
Yeah, and this is a perfect time for them to kind of regroup. Just look at the numbers. What is not working and why? And we can come up with any myriad of reasons why not. But I can tell you, I made concerted efforts to go back to the theaters to watch Phase 1 Marvel movies. Maybe not Thor: The Dark World, but I still did go watch it twice. But out of this last run of them, it has just been Multiverse of Madness that I was like, I gotta watch it again. And the only reason I haven't watched No Way Home again is because it's not streaming anywhere that I'm...
Wait, did you only watch Black Panther in theaters once?
Yeah.
Wakanda Forever?
Yeah.
And that once was the time that you had to leave the movie early?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, so
then I had to leave the movie early.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you had a flat tire, and then you had to get home, and I had to go take you home.
Look, I'm sorry, okay, and thank you for being a good friend. As other friends go, Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, there's been some controversy, some light, gentle controversy online. Apparently, there are multiple cuts of the movie is how it's been phrased. Meaning, at least what I thought, maybe there's a different ending or a different cliffhanger, this and that. And I really don't want to go back to the theater to go watch it again to find out which one I watched. If you remember, Fox did something similar back in the day with cutscenes on X-Men Origins Wolverine, there were at least 2 different versions of the end, and I think there was a third one. And it did have people going back to watch because one of them was Deadpool related, but from what I'm hearing, from what the Big Tuna put his net out, he got some stuff in. Tell us all about the multiple cuts.
Yeah, so I'm going to reel this in, as a fisher of men, as a fisher of Spider-Man. What most people don't realize is that Sony reissued the movie. A lot of audiences that watched the opening weekend complained. They got vocal on social media that the audio dialogue, the spoken lines, were getting washed out by the soundtrack. And Sony said, we are going to we're going to fix this. And a lot of people are speculating or thinking that what's happened is some theaters have retained the original cut, if you will, and then this different mixing, if you will. Now, I did find, I went to some Reddits, and I was trying to do some research. I found a list of they had compiled about 7 different differences. And the differences that I read, I don't want to spoil too much, but what I will say is they seem so minuscule that having watched the movie, if I were to watch the other cut of it, I probably wouldn't even be able to know that. I wouldn't even notice a difference, probably. Some of the reason this kind of was trending on social media is because a Twitter account had posted 2 videos, which is interesting that they didn't get called out by Sony for doing this, but they posted 2 videos of a particular scene with Miguel O'Hara talking to who's his AI
Spider Bite.
Yeah, the
thing
jacket,
in his suit.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? So he's talking about calling for backup. It was that scene where he's arguing about calling for backup, and in one cut she's like, "See, that wasn't so hard." And another cut she's like, "Oh," and takes a selfie. And that's the only difference there in that scene.
Weird.
So to say that there's a different cut, I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think what happened is Sony was like, we're going to throw in a few different things here and re-release, with some of the changes to the audio. Now, this is not the first movie to have issues with audio. In fact, probably the one that stands out in my mind the most was the opening scene, the prologue scene from The Dark Knight Rises, in which Tom Hardy's Bane makes the appearance. Fantastic, awesome scene. And people in the IMAX were like, we couldn't tell what he was saying. Yeah. And they, some have said that he re-recorded the dialogue. Some have said that it was just simply Warner Brothers, with the sound of the audio mixing, clarifying, removing some of the muffling sound.
He's like, "Oh, do you want me to do it without the sock in my mouth?"
Yeah. But what I will say is, having I watched the prologue. We worked at a theater, with an IMAX, an IMAX screen, and so that was one of the things we got to do. And I remember watching the prologue, and one of the big differences that I noticed, it's hard to come by any good quality of the original mix. His almost Scottish accent that he has as Bane is very undetectable. Yeah. It's a lot more, it's a lot deeper in the register. It's not as high. Yeah. And so I think that inflection may have been added either, in the mixing studio or by Tom Hardy himself. A lot of that inflection of the highs and lows with his voice may have helped to clarify. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up getting, a spider. It would be cool if the Blu-ray release has a feature where it's got glitch scenes, where it's you watch it, it's every time you watch it, there's a little something different or something. That'd be kind of a cool, clever thing to do.
Totally. Yeah, I was taken aback by it, and fortunately, the Big Tuna did all the heavy lifting as one does, and researched it, because I was like, man, I want to see it, but I'm like, if the theaters don't know, because that was the thing with Wolverine, we didn't know which theater had the ending, and we would just move them around and everything. So, let's say, I thought it was going to be a bigger Easter egg thing. I didn't think it was going to fundamentally change in any stories. What I was hoping for was, more spider appearances, a Todd McFarlane Venom in the background or something. I thought there would be some fun
and
like
that.
that.
And that could exist. It just maybe hasn't been
discovered yet.
Yeah.
Well, children, that is our show. If you like what we're doing, please hit that subscribe button. Let us know what your thoughts are on this decline in the Disney product. A lot of people talking about how the house mouse can't figure it out, but I'm curious to see what other people think. Like, why do you think these movies aren't doing well? Is it the cost? Is it the material? What? Are we bored? I'm not. Let's keep these Marvel movies going right into my veins. Click that little bell so you know we have new stuff on. Check out our shorts. The Big Tuna's always working on cool shorts. And Eric, hopefully we see you next week. We miss you, buddy. Big Tuna, you got any takes for us today?
Yeah, I'll leave you with this. Probably the movie that did the most clever, cut, if you will, was one of my favorite comedies of all time. That's Clue. When Clue was released in the theatrical release in theaters in the mid '80s, they billed the movie as having an ending A, an ending B, and an ending C. There was a fourth ending that was, I believe it was shot, but it has not been released. It's a kind of a dark and macabre ending. But in each of the three endings to Clue, there's a different killer, it totally works for that movie because every time you play Clue, the location, the weapon, the murder changes. And so that was very clever. When the DVD came out, I remember being blown away that you could select to watch it with one of the three endings, and you don't know what it is because the movie just plays through.
Yeah.
There's one particular scene where the other two endings start at, so everything else in the movie is the same.
Yeah.
It's just in one particular scene where the dialogue then is going to be different, and there's a different killer. But we had it taped off like HBO when in the late '80s, and so when we watched it, it runs through all three, and so that's one of the features. It does kind of a title card like a silent film, where it plays a little bit of music, and it's like that's how it could have ended. How about this?
Yeah.
And then after that ending, then it's like here's how it really ended, and that's the last ending. So pretty clever. If you have not watched Clue, it bounces around on the streaming platform, so it's probably on something right now. It was on Netflix, then it wasn't, and then on. But check out Clue if you have not seen it. It's a very well-written comedy produced by John Landis.
Wow, I have not seen it, and I'm not seeing it because Jordan likes it so much, because I'm stubborn. Kids, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I have been your host, Roman Chavez. For the Big Tuna and Eric Icarus, we will catch you on the next podcast.